Alright, technically I am live on YouTube now.
Cool.
And I'm
Sweet.
going to put up Monster Hunter World, see if that pops up. There it goes. Alright. So, let me make sure I've got all my notes and all that pulled up because thankfully I have a lot of stuff put together. Partially thanks to Chris. Chris has actually been a big help with getting all my stuff transcribed. There is so much stuff that's been already written out on this. Now, the funny thing is, I don't have a name for the world yet.
Okay.
Oh, you used Microsoft Word for this.
No, I used Libra and then also saved it as Microsoft document.
Ah, okay.
I wasn't sure which would be better for you, so I sent you both.
Yeah, I don't think I even have Libra. Libre. Libre Office. And I take it this is just free, or?
Yeah, the version.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Okay. I'm downloading this right now. Yeah, I don't understand the point in paying for a text document thing.
Yeah, no.
Okay, next. Next. God, my body is so fucked up right now. Like, I feel both cold on the outside, like my skin is cold, but my insides feel warm. It's fucking dumb. Okay. I'll eventually get everything just kind of moved over to Google Docs at some point. But my insides. All right. While this installs, how do we want to get this started? Well, I guess let's start here. For those who do not know, before I ever tried to become an animator, before I ever tried to become a YouTuber, before I even got out of high school, I wanted to be a writer. That was my big aspiration. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write books. And then I found out something horrifying. No one fucking reads. So, all jokes and whatnot aside, that is literally a dilemma I run into all the time. And now I find myself enjoying audiobooks, and I found out that, yeah, no one reads anymore, but people love audiobooks. So I am very tempted to make a book. Hopefully it gets put to audiobook. We'll fucking find out. If I even publish it. Because I have yet to publish anything out of my... Listen, I've written a lot of books, okay? So, now that we've started with that, let's start with the world I'm basically building. Let's also launch this Libre thing. And see if I can change it to my default, because as much as I would love to say, let's see, if following formats are not registered, opened by LibreOffice. Yes. Yeah, no. Apparently, Windows 11 does not like you switching to stuff that is not Windows product if they can help it.
Nope.
All right. Hold up. I need to double check my actual notes here because oh, okay, that makes sense. That's why you put it as Jar Jar.
I couldn't read it.
Yeah, it's like some weird looking D letter. I literally wrote it as the Nordic depiction showed. It's like a D with a little T cross
Well, you
across
should
the
have let
top.
me know that ahead of time.
No, that's fair. Yeah, so I think it's technically pronounced Jorder. But it's not like I can't add it myself right now. I mean, there you go. Boom, done.
It's gonna be in there multiple times, just so you know.
Okay, note. I will get to work on that.
Anywhere where that name was, it's probably Jar Jar or something, or Jar Jar or something. I don't even know if I spelled it consistently.
So far, it looks like it. I just love the fact that you capitalized the other J, too.
It looked capitalized.
It's fine. I think I found... Oh, what the fuck? Okay, find all. Okay, it looks like I got it taken care of. Oh, that's nicely done. Nice. All right. So, moving on. So I obviously I've got a bunch of notes written up on this. Sasquatch, where do you think I should start? Should I start with the land masses? Should I start with the moon? Should I start with the magic?
Land masses can get into celestial bodies and stuff later.
Okay. I just gotta see if I can find my notes here. Maybe. The notes I had for the physical. Nope, not this one. I think it was the one that was actually in my notebook. Yeah, this is why I have Chris transcribe everything, because otherwise I end up with papers upon papers upon papers everywhere. And that's not even a joke. Like, I literally have like notes scattered everywhere for this thing. Jesus. All right. I think I might have these ones transcribed on the Google Doc. So I'll go grab the Google Doc and hope for the best. Okay. And Google Docs. And I think it's in this one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in this one. All right. Ironically, I started with the magic in my my thing, but all right. So I actually started off with the moons, and then I worked my way from there. So there are 3 moons that currently exist in this world. All 3 moons have different rotational alignments, and they occupy the sky only twice yearly. Due to this, however, the days comparatively to ours are about 36 hours. And that is because the size of the world is just straight out larger by about, well, decent amount. I'm not going to do the math in my head right now. This does mean that one moon can end up setting before the other one even rises. So that is something to consider. I'm going to go and set up a quest for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Did you get enough for your full armor?
Oh yeah, I'm fully
All right,
upgrade.
cool. We're doing this fight then.
All right.
Oh shit, I think I started accidentally. Yeah, it'll be fine. Anyways, so yeah, obviously when these three moons are in the sky together, it causes some major fuckery with the weather. Because think about that. Our normal moon, right, already causes tidal shift, right? So as this moon is traveling around our planet, it is causing this ginormous tidal shift constantly. Sorry about that. Because of that, I had to consider, okay, well, what would 3 moons do? Well, if there's only 2 moons in the sky, it'd probably be a bit of a shift, but probably wouldn't be too bad. Maybe some, extra fuckery. But what happens when all 3 moons are in the sky at the same time? On top of that, one's a small, one's a medium, and one's a large moon. And when I say large moon, I mean it is just small enough that it doesn't try to collide with the planet itself. So it's small enough that it maintains an orbit, but it's large enough that it's hard to ignore. And I had to think, okay, well, how bad would that cause? When all 3 are in the air at the same time, it actually causes a massive storm, and then what can best be described as a pillar of water between the largest moon and the actual planet itself. Now, I'm sure someone's going to say, well, that's not possible. That defies certain amounts of physics. It's a fucking book with magic in it. Get over yourself. Shut up. I tried to make it semi-realistic, but not fully realistic. Get over yourself. So, in the event of all 3 moons being in the sky, it is called the Fartooth Denith, or the Farth for the common. So this is an event that actually has a name that appears in the books, and people are scared. I want you to consider something. When the tide is so big, right, that you have a piece of your water mass gliding into the air, what happens to the other side of the planet?
Does sound good.
Well, the water would naturally drain, right? Because if water's leaking up one direction, it's going to dip in the other direction, right? It's the reason why we have high tide and low tide. We have low tide when the moon is on the opposite side of the world. We have high tide when the moon is overhead because it's drawing the water up. When you have 3 moons, that low tide on the opposite end of the world is going to be abysmal. You're talking parts of the ocean that, under normal circumstances, would never see the light of the day. And then you've got parts of the ocean, obviously, that that are just blatantly, like, completely immersed. Places where islands should be are now just straight out underwater. So yeah, that's there is also an event called the Absinthe of the Moons, or the Cethera, or Forgotten Sky, where there are no moons in the sky. So two major lunar events that are kind of important to the story. I wrote these first because I wanted to write in a world with multiple moons. And to me, it felt like, okay, well, aside from there being multiple moons, which, is kind of cool and kind of mysterious, how does that affect the world? What's special about that? Not even just talking about each individual moon, but like the effect that they just have on the world for existing. And yeah, that's actually what I came up with. So far, any questions or anything to ask or anything? Nothing? Okay. I'm going to find a quick place to hide, and then I'm going to grab up the rest of my notes. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So, for the record, every single moon has the abbreviation US at the end. So, sorry. The first moon is Cetus. Cetus is the undead moon, or the moon of rebirth. The moon is pink. It has a fleshy-like surface with rivers of biomass. Now, just out of your curiosity, what do you think when you think biomass? Or liquid biomass, to be more specific. I say as I know he's distracted. I'm not even sure he's paying attention anymore. Or maybe no, my headset's still working because I can still hear the monster fighting.
It really helps if I wasn't muted.
Oh, yeah, that does
I was
help.
thinking Ghostbusters too.
You know, that's an interesting way to think of it. I kind of dig that. I was thinking blood and plasma, but honestly, that's kind of cool, actually. I confess I kind of dig that. Anyways, it's thought to be a god that can neither die nor fully revive. So this is literally as far as everybody is concerned, it's an undead creature that is neither alive nor dead. When the moon is full, necromancers actually travel to it to get their certification. When the moon is new, vivomancers travel to earn certification. And it is the smallest of the three moons. We will get to what vivomancers and necromancers are a little bit later. We'll get to all the magical groups later. Okay. Next up is Zothis. Zothis is the moon of water and air. It is a large blue moon. It has very few land masses at all that peek out of the water. And twice a year, when all three moons are present, it is the one that connects via the water pillar. No one is out at sea, at least no one's sane, when this ginormous tide is up. Because, you know, who's gonna sit in that fucking storm? However, it is also known for its legendary exchange of life. Because, yes, things do live on this moon in the water. So when this giant, like, combining of water pillars happens, you're talking about an exchange of life forms that normally or naturally would not happen. So, something to really take into account there. Like, imagine having something from a very water-based world, or sorry, water-based moon, traveling down onto a planet that probably has much higher gravity, but also it's probably more chock full of a number of different things. Like there's a lot to be taken in there. When the moon is full, aquamancers travel for certification. When the moon is new, aeromancers travel. The last moon is Dothus. This is the moon of fire and iron. It is the middle child of the 3 moons. While it is capable of holding life, few stay long enough to know why. The climate and the local area are generally covered in crimson dust and magma pipes from a molten, heavily active core. When the moon is full, it's pyromancers. When the moon is new, it's terramancers. Not tarot, terramancers. So yeah, like, any major question about the 3 moons and what they're all about?
That comes to mind.
Alright. I'm never sure if I should feel proud of myself or feel worried, because if people aren't asking questions, that makes me wonder if I did a good enough job writing, or if I did a good enough job that, like, no one needs to have any questions, you know? It's always a kind of a 50-50 there. Okay. Do we want to move on to magic or continents next?
Maybe magic.
Alright. So, magic is broken up into several different sectors. I'm going to give a base lowdown of them. Sorry, I'm all cooped up right now. But while these are the basics, there is obviously a bit more information since I originally wrote this, so feel free to ask questions. First off, we're going to talk about thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy is the breakdown of magical elements. Raw elemental shards. It uses machines based off of pressure and the different different elements or essences that are found within it. It likes to use raw aura to fuel its machines. So this is versus, like, say, right, Minecraft furnace, right, where you use coal. In this case, you would use just flat aura or magical essence to ignite the furnace, to ignite the kiln. They know how to create golems and control them. However, they are not the only group that can create golems and control them. However, they are the most proficient at doing it in a mechanical way. Sometimes they require spirits to help have better control. Now, to give you an idea, spirits are the embodiment of aura, basically this world's form of magic. However, people aren't sure what to make of them. They just exist. That's the nicest way to put it. They're just there. They can pop in and out of existence. They don't seem to keep in mind or remember stuff. And it is rare for them to become overly attached to anything. But it's said that if you can befriend a spirit, they will generally help you for the rest of your life. So, something to keep in mind for later. That is not written in my notes. That's just something I blopped down in my memory. We will get back to that bit later. Next up, we have necromancy. Necromancy is the magic of undeath or false animation. Necromancy cannot revive or resurrect. That is important. Necromancy also is not good at mending. It's not meant to fix people up. It can create constructs. It can mechanize, animate, or puppeteer. It causes a minor amount of taint. We're going to get back to that later. And necromancy can happen in the wild. We're going to get back to that later, too. That one's fun. Quest is up, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Necromancy can also not subvert consciousness. What this means is a lot of the story wraps around the idea of will. Okay? If you have a will of your
yay,
own...
Them.
Wait, what?
Oh, yay, them.
Because of this, will is kind of important for a number of bits of story. Will is basically tied in with the soul. So,
Okay.
if you have a soul, you have some form of will. Because of that, necromancy has a hard time dealing with the living because it cannot really subvert will, at least not easily. This isn't to say that someone who's strong enough in necromancy couldn't overpower someone's will if they wanted to. But you're talking some major absurd power to do so. To give you an idea, right? To subvert someone else's will means you need to have enough magical power to not only control their body, or at least that part of their body, right? But also the ability to override all of their own willpower and all of their own presence of soul. So you are literally overriding everything that makes them them, which, for obvious reasons, can have a detrimental effect on the participant. This is not to say that if someone gives up their will, aka if someone submits, they can't they can't become overpowered by necromancy. If you basically go, yeah, no, control me like a puppet, the necromancer basically gets full reign. It's also less likely to have a detrimental effect, because if you're not fighting them for control, you're obviously not, like, trying to damage yourself in doing so. So, yeah. The big thing I need to make note of here is I may note that necromancy in the world of, or in this world, is the akin to trying to use a cleaver or a hatchet versus trying to do anything delicate. So you're literally trying to use brute force to get the job done. That's important for the next one that I'm going to be bringing up here in just a second. Okay. I need to scroll down so I can get to the next one. So the next one is necromancy's polar opposite, vivomancy. Vivomancy is known for healing and mending. It can interfere or interface with normal life. It can force mutations. Now that's a key one, and we'll get back to that later. Requires knowledge of bodily functions. So this is basically saying that, say you're trying to mend the muscles in the forearm, right? If you don't know how those muscles are supposed to connect and all that, it can become very nasty very quick, because the last thing you want to do is connect the wrong nerves or the wrong muscles to the wrong spot, you know? Because you're essentially, as a vivomancer, you're telling the cells where to grow and where to connect. Yeah, which is important.
Neat.
Yeah, it's the reason why I said it can also force mutation. You're basically telling the body to grow or change a certain way. Most people stick to the healing end of it, but for obvious reasons, some people can experiment with it. And you can imagine, like, growing an extra leg, or making a kidney bigger, or, you know, any of those different things, right? It cannot revive. Now, that's another key factor. Once again, life is precious in this world. You cannot just kill something and then it magically come back to life. This is not a world where resurrection is a natural thing. If anything, it's not really a thing at all. So I want that to be kept in mind because that becomes important later. It should be impossible to have a soul interact with anything that is either dead or even really living. Like, you can't put grandma's soul into your pet rat. That's not how that works. Granted, I'm pretty sure grandma is thankful for that because living as a rat probably would not be very fun. They can
Maybe. We'll see.
They can create new things from living flesh. So, did you ever look into the flesh shapers in Pathfinder? I'm guessing not really, huh?
I never really did.
Flesh shapers are essentially somewhat close to what Vivimancers are to a certain degree because Vivimancers, so long as they have enough power to do so, can help grow a bone, they can help grow cellular tissue, they can help fix skin or even stretch existing tissue, but because of this, they can also make new things from living flesh. So as long as the flesh is alive and it can cell divide, they can work with it. However, that being said, if the cells are dead, they can't work with it. Which means they either require living tissue or extremely fresh tissue. Which means if something is freshly dead, right? And I'm talking like it's been dead moments. They can absolutely use that flesh to do other things. I have a note here. Both necromancers and vivimancers have different feels. One is stimulating and engaging a creature's body to do something by finer work and gentler pushes. Necromancy is forcing the body and brute forcing it to, forcing the body and brute forcing it to do something. The difference is like a scalpel and a machete. One can cut delicately, but isn't great as a weapon, or for pushing hard. The other can cut through swabs of things, but lacks delicate touch to do anything finer, or require precision, or that requires precision. Once again, what this means is necromancers are good at brute forcing stuff, whereas vivimancers are better at working with living things and doing finer details.
Now I need to go talk to Olivia.
Okay.
I'll do that after I.
Yeah, because you're
look
21 now,
into-
aren't you?
I'm 20.
And close enough. The key thing to note, because someone asked me, well, does this mean that necromancers can make skeletons? And if so, how does that work? The detail I wrote for that is necromancers can absolutely control skeletons. However, working with a skeleton is a lot harder than working with a zombie. Whereas zombie still has tissue, muscles, and all that, it makes it a little bit easier to work with because at least then you're pulling on, strings and fibers and stuff like that. Versus trying to just move bone. Because if you're just trying to move bone, at that point you might as well be moving a wooden mannequin versus trying to actually move a proper doll with strings. If that makes any sense. Because vivimancy is a lot more delicate and detailed, this means that vivimancy can't do that same control, but doesn't mean that they can't do other fucky-wucky things. Because remember, I mentioned, well, as long as the tissue is living, they can kind of mess with it, and they're good at detail work. What happens if someone starts messing with your brain? Hello, person.
Hello. Who told Squatch I was in the hospital?
No one?
My mistake. Sorry.
Ruin's in the hospital.
Oh, Ruin's in the hospital. What?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Sorry,
annoying.
messaged the wrong one. My mistake. Sorry, bud.
I was like, I'm not in the hospital. Who told you this information?
Anyways, back to my podcast. As I bounce between different things. So yeah, any questions on necromancy or vivomancy?
No, it does sound very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they're two sides of the same coin. They both work with what can best be described as organic matter, but they also work with it in two very, very different ways. It completely changes the dynamic of how you look at them. It also makes necromancers, while they're still icky and nasty and fucked up, they're not as overpowered or brutal as they are in other stories. Something else to note is power level in this power level in this story varies quite a bit from person to person. One person might have the capability to, literally raise an entire army of the dead from cadavers, right? Whereas another person might struggle to even get a single cadaver to get up and moving. Also, keep in mind that while all of these are very different, this isn't to say that some people can't do multiple things. You absolutely could have someone who can do both vivomancy and necromancy. They are not mutually exclusive. They just require different techniques. Okay, next up is flowmancy. Yes, you heard that right, flowmancy. This requires flowers, plants, herbs, and byproducts. This actually creates no taint, and that is because it's siphoning and processing magic through nothing but plant matter. Now, unlike vivomancy and necromancy that generally use... Are you okay?
I'm okay. Sorry.
Unlike vivomancy and necromancy that generally work off of like human bodies or animal bodies or stuff like that, flowmancy very specifically tries to work with plants. And because all the magic is being filtered through the plants, they basically create no taint. They can only use what's available in the plant. So some plants are going to have more power than other plants. And obviously the amount of power and what kind of power they hold is going to be vastly different from one another. When your quest is up, let me know.
Oh, right. I have to go do that. Okay.
No stress.
Sorry. I'm kind of...
No, you're fine. Flowmancy is generally used with potions, talismans, and other objects. It never uses direct flesh or organs from creatures. It does not, or flowmancy does not work well when it comes to animal bits. It's also naturally weaker than other things, but it's potent. What I mean by that is anything that's made with flowmancy generally does not have a lot of bang, but it lasts a long time. So if someone who uses flowmancy makes an amulet that you wear around your neck that helps with regeneration or recuperation, right? It's not going to like numb your body, but it will last you for hours upon hours, if not weeks. So for someone who suffers from like chronic back pain or something like that, literally getting a talisman from a flowmancer is going to be a big help, because you're talking no Advil, no NyQuil, no Advil, nor Tylenol, none of that to deal with your pain. You just throw the pendant around your neck and you're good. Now, once you take off the pendant, all that pain's going to rush back, but I mean, don't take off the fucking pendant.
Yeah, just wear the pendant 24/7.
Pretty much, yeah. But it very much is one of those things that it has to work with plant matter. Next up is metallurgy. This one very specifically works with metal and different impurities within the earth. It can imbue metals, gems, and gemstones with aura. It can morph natural materials into a measure of shapes, provided that it's not inert. What that means is the metal has to have a natural affinity for magic. If the metal doesn't... If the metal doesn't have a natural affinity for magic, it does not work. So, if you think Minecraft, right? Gold is really good for enchantment, whereas like stone is not so good for enchantment, right? In this case,
Right.
it's very similar. The more magical a metal is, the better a metallurgist is going to be able to work with it. So you want to have like really cool, really, gussed up metals to work with. If you're given something like just plain iron, it's not going to do so well. Now, if you mix that iron with other magical metals, right, you can get something that's still pretty powerful and pretty awesome. But you gotta keep in mind that the iron by itself is inert. Okay. Generally requires a large knowledge of atomic structure, of metal and mineral composition. I think we kind of covered that earlier. While it can be used with other forms of magic expertise, it is generally best for long-term solutions and holding of magic over great periods of time. So very similar to Flowmancy, this is something where you want the magic to hold for a long, long, long time. Requires great skill, a large amount of time, and rarely can be rushed with good results. So you've got to think a proper blacksmith, even if they're wielding the metal with their hands and all that, like literally warping it with their hands magically, it does not change the fact that it still takes time, it still takes effort, it still takes precision to get the best results. On top of that, because they're using metals and crystals, unlike Flowmancy, which is made out of like woods and plant matter and all that, this is going to be a lot heavier, a lot denser, and a lot rougher. So, yeah, you can get a cast iron pen that will never stick and can self-heat, but it's going to be heavy as fuck. Not only that, but you gotta make sure you clean the runes on the metalwork constantly, because the last thing you want is your greasy food messing up the magic. But yeah, metallurgists are literally just capable of warping and transmuting metal into whatever they really need or want. Next up is auramancers or magus. Auramancers pull aura straight from the air, generally causing a large amount of aerial taint. Hardest to master of all magics, but seems to come naturally to a select few. Considered generally unreliable and dangerous without training. Can have a specific form of auramancer specialization, generally leading to a profession of such kind. Much like Aqua, Pyro, Aero, and Terramancer, they can manipulate the different elements, but unlike the Mancers, do not generally require the element to be in proximity. They simply need the correct aura in the nearby location. Because aura is the way it is, the best way to think of aura is as like a magical node in the world, right? That magical node generally represents the local area. Because of that, say if you have an auramancer nearby, even if there's no fire in the local area, if there is even a bit of fire aura in the area, they can use that. They can just, boom, instant fire. Same thing with water. If they're in the middle of the desert, if there's even a lick of water aura in the local area, they can just create water out of nowhere. However, because of this, it also means that they are more likely to create taint. I'm going to go back to taint here in a bit, but yeah, it means that they can literally just pull straight from nature. Oh, you gotta fight Anjanath?
Yeah.
Okay. Next come the Mancers.
Lala Brianna.
Oh, it's,
taking on too. It's
It's a dual
Bulgur.
fight. Okay. So the Mancers are a little bit more specialized. Now, before I even get started on talking about them, I want you to think about them as Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay?
Alright.
Should make sense, right? Pyro, Aqua, Terra, and Aero. They require little
Yeah.
to no aura to work, which means as long as they're in an area where the element that they use is nearby, they can use it. So, Pyromancer, as long as there's anything that can feed a fire, they can immediately work fire. Terramancer, as long as there is some kind of earth nearby, they can work it. Aquamancer, Aeromancer, same fucking thing. So, as long as there's something nearby that they can use, there you go. Generally speaking, they are confused with specialist or auramancers on the regular. The more well-adapted and quote-unquote blessed the Mancer is, the stronger and more adjustable, as well as more precise they can be. No training is needed, however it is encouraged due to the danger and possibly high blessing and lack of control. So, basically people treat these people as walking living weapons. Not because they're inherently just dangerous outright, but more because the potential for them to become dangerous is just there. Most common among the gifted, but rarely grow beyond their innate ability. Now, what this means is most Pyro, Aqua, Terra, and Aeromancers can use their abilities really well, but they have a hard time growing past them. They never quite branch out into other places because it's just something that naturally comes to them. For them, when something's as easy as, waving your hand and you can just instantly do it, versus having to put in effort into something that you don't completely understand, you can see why there's a bit of an issue. So, next up, and this is going to be everybody's favorite, the normies. These people sadly have no blessing. They lack ability or to either sense or use aura in many forms. Technology does exist to assist those without the ability, and it can be costly, but normally people who own companies or own facilities are happy to lend or rent out this equipment to people who are looking to do a job. AKA, even if you don't have magical power, this world basically says, oh yeah, just use that machine over there, you'll be fine. So, I think that's actually pretty cool, the fact that even normal people still have the opportunity to partake in the magical society. A majority of the population, but the numbers have been dropping over time as aura pollution takes hold from overuse. So, basically, fewer and fewer normies are being born. And because of that, you're starting to see a weird uptake in people with special abilities because of aura pollution. What aura pollution basically means is that aura has gotten so overwhelmed in the area that it's starting to just saturate in the stuff that it normally wouldn't touch, which kind of gets into taint, but once again, we'll get back to that here in a bit. Generally thought poorly of, with the right conditions, may gain aura sensitivity, but is rare and most don't survive due to aura toxicity. This means that basically if you end up with too much aura toxicity in your system, you literally just get sick and die. That being said, people who do survive it do basically pull a Toxic Avenger. So, go play in the nuclear sludge. It'll be fine. What? The magical the magical waste isn't giving you superpowers? Oh, well, you'll just get cancer. It's fine. Anyways, when the body does not properly process aura correctly and fails under that's aura toxicity. Yeah, when the body doesn't properly process aura and
Ouch.
fails under stress. Hi, Troy.
Hi.
I've been fighting him for a little while. Okay, next up is Alchemist. Now, I want to make note that Alchemist is not technically magical in nature like the others are. It basically uses magical components to make stuff. So think real life Alchemist versus Full Metal Alchemist, if that makes any sense. Well, actually, no, not true. Sorry. Think mixture of Full Metal Alchemist and real life Alchemist. This is a profession, not a skill, generally looked upon by the desperate to use aura in spite of possible issues. Regardless of innate talent, this is something anyone with knowledge can perform on the basic level. However, more advanced levels will require aid of either an auramancer or a thaumaturgist. There are ways around this, but generally looked upon as dangerous and ill-advised. Oh, you've got your bow out.
Yeah, I'm trying it out.
Thanks for the heals.
You're welcome.
Here we go. Note, for all specialists, there can be a mix and match. However, it's best to note that most excel in one or another, rarely multiple. In some rare cases, a prodigy is found that can master a number of these, if not most. However, these are heavily guarded, looked highly upon, drilled relentlessly, and imbued or ruthlessly to imbue morals and generally trying to focus on too many things at the same time.
Yep.
Generally by local faith or the closest institution of education. Those rare cases, however, despite having an incredible capability, normally die young due to their body's intake and output of aura, leading to something akin to the same as aura toxicity in their system.
You left the quest.
Oh, I apparently got kicked out and I'm on my own. I am going to return from quest and try to rejoin you. Don't want to quit game. Return from quest. There we go. In even rare cases, someone is born with no ability and is born exceptionally tolerant to aura. They are treated as cripples since this normally prevents them from interacting properly with the world around them, even beyond what a normie might deal with. So, what that means is there are some people who are prodigies and basically can interact with a little bit of everything, if not everything. But then you've also got people who, for lack of better term, failed to join because the quest has ended. I'm sorry, Try. Looks like you're on your own for now.
Oh.
I'm sure you'll be okay.
Maybe.
Anyways. So yeah. Any questions on any of that? Oh, right. I need to get into Taint. I almost forgot about Taint. Taint's important. Taint is the spoiled and mutated aura. It can change to land and air and causes raw mutations. Generally falls into tainted flesh hives and mines. Magically formed by mistreatment or overuse of aura. Can form naturally but is rare. Can be processed back into normal aura with careful work. If left too long, it can infect aura nodes and pulse, slowly corrupting more and more. Comes in 3 flavors: solid, gas, and fluid. If broke down small enough, it will eventually break down the rest of the way into the proper aura that it came from. So, any questions on any of that? I know that was all quite a lot to take in.
Hard for me to concentrate and do both.
I hear ya. Yeah, magic in this world basically falls into a number of different things. For obvious reasons, I should just call Auramancers Magus. But there has to be a more definitive term for them that fits in with the rest of the naming
Oh,
convention.
boy, that was not fun.
Almost all of these things can create taint. However, the 2 things that have the lowest amount, or it's nearly impossible to cause taint, is Flowmancy and Metallurgy. Because they're working with raw materials that already are imbued with magic. And then, of course, Thaumaturgist is almost like an advanced form of Alchemist. I think unlike every other magic class, Thaumaturgist is kind of like an artificer, where they're taking magical items and magical property stuff and just putting it together to make it work. And unlike Metallurgists and Flowmancers, they can actually use aura directly from the air or containers to do their job as well. So, oh, I goofed. Oh, I have messages. Messages. Oh, message from Rune. Okay, Rune's currently getting an IV. For all intents and purposes, they're not sure what all's going on, but they're hoping maybe some extra fluid in his system will do the trick. Yeah, I tried to make magic as coherent and cohesive as possible,
Oh,
while
ow.
still being at least remotely interesting, if that makes any sense. I also didn't want to take too much mystery out of it, because if you explain too much, is it still magic? In this case, that basically comes from the aura stuff. Aura basically fills in the, hey, yeah, we actually don't know where this comes from, we just kind of use it. And it works.
Sorry, I'm not really.
Oh no, you're doing other stuff right now, it's all good. I mean, Sasquatch is here too, and so is Demon, I think.
And there we go. Alright, I may not live through all this. I don't have Olivia's not doing much.
She never does. I mean, what? Okay. Well, now that I've explained taint and the different stuff, let's see. As well as normies. Everybody loves a good normie. Fucking normies. Okay. Next comes the continents. So there are 4 major continents, or let me rephrase this. There are 4 major continental plates that are above water, and then there is the continental plate that's basically on the opposite side of the world that is just water. So we're gonna start with the major continental plates that have land on them, and then the water ones just, yeah, it's just the ocean. For all continents, they have the suffix "to" at the end, so you can always tell what a continent is based off of the "to" at the end. So the northern one is Soltu, land of the north. It's covered in a large amount of tundra, and it gets progressively worse as you get farther and farther north. As you get farther and farther south, it becomes more temperate, but you also start to get closer and closer to that giant storm I mentioned before. So people consider the areas closer to the beaches a lot more dangerous, and therefore kind of sit in this weird area between tundra and the coastal region, which for them makes things rather precarious. Necromancers generally prefer this area due to just the temperature. Tends to be a lot easier to keep dead bodies fresh if it's cold out. Go figure. They also deal with common aberrant taint. So there's just a absurdly normal amount of taint up there. The land of the west is called Fatu. It is filled with wild aura. It has a large amount of wildlife, lush grounds. It's covered in plains, forests, and rolling grasslands. And while there are a few major cities, most of the continent is covered in a number of small earldoms and villages. So you'll see a bunch of like towns and villages and stuff like that, but you don't normally see too much beyond that. It is very rare that you'll come upon some of the city-states that are there. I haven't decided how many city-states are going to be there, but I figure I'll probably keep them in a minor number, if only because a lot of the people out there tend to be more wild. These are people who generally like the grasslands, like the forests, like, the lush greenery and all that. So to them, building large, extravagant cities kind of defaces the landscape, if that makes any sense. Next, you have the land of the east, Lutu. It's covered in ancient mountains, high hills, and deep grasslands. It's infested with cities under the high peaks, and flattens into almost staircase-like hills. They tend to be a lot more highly industrious, and they do have a number of small reservoirs of oil and tar. They like mass production and complex structures. Cities to outsiders are mazes that span ginormous areas. On top of that, the cities can have multiple different levels and pathways. So think old school dwarven cities, right? Where, yeah, you can be in an area where there are 3-4 story buildings, But hey, just walk upstairs and look, there's another set of 3-4 story buildings on top of that one. Yeah. But that's just the way they build their cities. Their cities are interlaced in a number of different tunnels, a number of different pockets, and you can end up with something as cavernous as Ironforge in those areas. The more I talk, the more the back of my throat just kind of goops up. Okay, the last major continental plate that has any kind of landmass is Destu, the Broken Isles. It is thought that it was once a giant great landmass in the middle, but it has since been shattered and scattered. Each island can vary greatly in its inhabitants and its ecology. It rarely habits sentient races. I want that noted. That says rarely, not does not. Which means there are some sentient races that are out there that don't want to intermingle with the other races. And obviously it's the site of the twice-yearly lunar event. The thing where the moon literally has the giant pillar wire between it and the planet. The last one is Vaktu, the ocean span between Lutu and Fatu, generally considered a great distance between and avoided aside from sparse oases like islands that come and go. aka, there's a couple of islands out there in the middle of the ocean that people don't really bother with too much because there's not much out there. Literally, as you travel across the long expanse of the sea between those two major continents going the long way around, yeah, there's an island here, there's an island there. That's really about it. Guess we'll try
I finally got through that quest, finally.
Oh, did you win?
Yeah, I won.
Nice. Okay. So any questions on the land masses or anything I've mentioned prior?
No, sorry,
You're good.
I was very busy on trying to win that fight.
Like I
And
said,
not
there are
defeat.
other people here. If they want to pitch in, they could pitch in too. It's not just you, man. Alright. Well, I think the next bit is we need to start going into the different races. Now, the races I have notes on, but I don't have everything noted. I did make these unique names, and I want to make this very clear. All of these races, for all intents and purposes, consider themselves human. In this case, human literally just means a sentient race on this world.
Alright, now I'm level 22.
Nice. We can start doing the other quests now. First off, we have the Feta. Thin and lanky, pointy ears, fair complexion, small to medium in stature. They have wings, but as they get taller and taller, they lose their wing structure. So, to give you an idea, if you have someone who's like maybe a foot tall, right? They probably got full-blown pixie wings. On the contrary, if you got someone who's like, 5'2", they probably have little nubs on their back and not really proper wings. Sadly, this means that whoever sits in the 3-foot range in between those two probably has little itty-bitty wings that are more or less fucking useless. Which has to be very irritable. They are naturally resistant to taint. they enjoy woods, and they specialize in auramancy, necromancy, and vipomancy. They also like complex magical things. So for them, physical stuff, meh. Mechanical stuff, meh. What's that? You have a spell that's got like 10 different layers? Ooh, gimme.
I say goodnight.
Oh, you're out for the night?
Yeah.
Alright, have fun, demon. Take care.
Later.
Pretty cool.
Also, I want to make note that the Feta are not the tallest race. Contrary to like another number of other mythos, I am not making my elf people the tall people. You can fuck off with that shit. The next group are the Etherean. They are... That seems weird. Oh. Oh, you put like CNENERALL nil features for a pure birth.
What? That's the best I could figure from what you wrote.
I think I meant for general nil. And
Your G's confused me a bit. Yeah, that didn't fit. Like early on, that wasn't registering as a G.
no, that's
That
fair.
was like a C and a Z. So I was.
No, that's fair.
My bad.
No, you're fine. It's why I was so confused. It's like, what the fuck is that? Did I write that? Did Chris write that? Shit. Generally nil features of pure birth. Now, I actually need to actually revamp that a little bit. I'm going to actually make them gruffer features if they're a pure birth. I'm going to make those forms of humans closer to I think the best way to describe it will be, since I'm on YouTube, I'm gonna go ahead and kill this stream right here. I don't need to be streaming like in a dozen different places. But I'm thinking of them as being a little bit hairier and a little bit more Nordic. So when you see them, like, they've got a full beard, they've got, you know, maybe braids in their hair and stuff like that. Whereas the Fey folk or the Feyta folk basically have more like finer features and slender features, and like they're practically hairless outside of like the tops of their heads. The humans are like, yeah, I've got fucking chest hair, I've got ass hair, I've got, you know, full fucking beard. Because, you know, that makes sense to me. Okay, tribe, we're going to get you, why don't you go to the forest and see if there's a quest there for you?
Alright.
Anyways.
Forest. Or Scarlet Forest.
Yep. Okay. Next up, Ethereans. They vary in power and likes. They enjoy exploration and experimentation. They are naturally weak to taint. So the Ethereans are weak to taint and are generally a lot easier to end up manipulated by taint. So they are treated kind of poorly. On top of that, they seem to be kind of the central race that is the binding agent between the other races. They seem to be the best to be able to crossbreed with. so you're more likely to find people of mixed blood with them than with the other races. Or I say races, I keep meaning to say ethnicity, because like I said, all of them consider themselves human. Next up is the Jordanbur. Small to medium structure, stout and broad, square ears. Yes, I said square. They have very boxed off ears comparatively to the other races. They prefer mountains and hills. They enjoy the complexity of physical constructs. Oh, you've got yourself a spell that has 10 layers. Bah! Oh, you've got yourself a wee little potion that's kind of made of many things. Bah! Oh, look at this gadget. What is it? What could it possibly be? It's just a typewriter. But they like the physically complex. They like stuff that's like really interesting and they can fiddle with their fingers. Which is funny because you'd think with people who are naturally having like fat fingers, they wouldn't be good at little dainty movements and all that, but when it comes to physical objects, they're great with it. They're resistant to physical injury and most toxins. They prefer thaumaturgy and metallurgy. Yep. So these are guys who very much enjoy their metal and just making stuff out of whatever they can. Oh, thank you for the quest invite.
You're welcome. Oh, I saw my.
That was
You
not the
still
quest I
have-
thought we would be doing, but okay.
Well, I just didn't know what else to really do.
Oh,
I didn't find anything.
Oh, you didn't find anything in the forest? That's fair.
Oh, good deal.
I was hoping we were gonna end up doing a special quest, but it'll happen when it happens. Really?
All right.
Fury? The last one are the Natura. Natura are beast or nature based. They are naturally elemental, so they generally make up a bulk of the Mancer population. They dislike complex stuff. They like stuff simple and basic. They don't want to think too hard about things. To them, it's like, I don't care how cool that looks. I don't care how interesting your spell is. I just want to eat my damn oatmeal and, like, go on a hike. They prefer open areas. They're robust and quick to heal. They are born with more extreme features based on their heritage. And they are slightly fragile to taint, but more robust in other ways. So once again, when it comes to like toxins or physical damage or stuff like that, they're really good. When it comes to taint, they're maybe not so good. To give a better example of Natura, Natura are your dryads. Natura are your cat people. Natura, basically, they're your demi-humans, if that makes any sense. Comparatively to other stories, games, books, whatever you want to call it, they are very much your demi-humans. You're half human, half whatever the fuck else. And yes, that there is something that plays into that a little bit more later on. But we'll get into that here in just a bit. Any questions on the races?
I missed the whole square.
Square to ear thing from the
Yeah.
the Jordanbur. So Jordanbur are basically the equivalent of dwarves and gnomes. So once again, similar to elves, they tend to have kind of a size differentiation. But unlike the elves, who are finer features and tend to have like wings and stuff, The Jordenbur tend to have, you know, hairier features, tend to be a bit broader, tend to be a bit heftier. And even when they're smaller, they're gonna have a lot more fluff than, say, a
You
Feta.
son of a
You know?
bitch.
So, like a Feta, you're gonna get some lanky-looking pixie, whereas with a Jordenbur, you're gonna get something more equivalent to a actual gnome. And because they enjoy physical complexities, I'm talking not like gnome with little red hat and blue vest. I'm talking gnome. Oh, time to move. I'm talking gnome like World of Warcraft gnomes. Things that like gadgets. Things that like explosives. Things that like explosives that are made with gadgets. So yeah. Does that help a little bit with Jordenbur? Or is the squared ear thing just a little bit weird for you?
No, it makes sense. I'm
Okay.
glad that I hit him.
When you did?
Bef-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you have hybrids. Hybrids are basically a stream of a number of different traits, but it's also where you start to get like really weird things. A great example is if you have a Feta that's mixed with a human, you end up with something with pointy ears, broad shoulders, and is somehow taller than a normal human. On the other hand, if you end up with like an ethereal and a Jordan, right? You end up with something that has like a super square jaw, flat teeth, and very, very broad and muscular stature. Probably looks something along the lines of Escanor or Armstrong. So you're talking some major beefcake muscle going on there. The guy that he shows up to the gym and everybody just walks out feeling defeated before he even lifts a single weight. So yeah, hybrids can be really interesting, but it's also where you get like really weird mixes, because if you somehow end up with, say, like a Jordenbur and a Feta mixing, you basically end up with a fat pixie. Which I have to imagine for the poor sod that ends up with that birthright, he probably is frustrated because, yeah, he can fly unlike his paw. But unlike his ma, he doesn't have, you know, the really nice, fine features. So he's just kind of like barely able to stay afloat in the air. Kind of just looks like a flying water balloon. Or, if he's really lucky, maybe he's a flying beefcake. You know, full on muscles. I can just imagine that now. Like, you basically have like some Armstrong like fairy come in, just like, what? But yeah, I mean, and then obviously it's gonna be hard to see like what a mix between a Natura and a any other race is gonna be, because they've already got fairly extreme genetic traits. Okay, so far everything good? Everybody following?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, more news from her. According to Ruin, doctor's saying it's either kidney stones or appendicitis. For his sake, I'm hoping it's kidney stones.
Yeah.
Doink, doink. Doink, doink. Doink, doink. Sorry, I'm playing with my cat's tail real quick. Doink, doink. Okay. So now we've got all the races in place. We've got the continents, we've got the moons. The only thing I haven't named is major cities, but that's because major cities are to come later. So far, are you able to follow all of the information? Do you have any major questions? Anything you want to add or subtract from this? Anything you want to add to the discussion?
No.
Okay. Because the next part, we're going to start to get a little bit grisly. For anybody who is listening who has issues with major diseases or ailments, I highly recommend that you leave now. We are going to be getting into some grisly territory and the darker end of my storytelling. We're going to start with vampirism. Vampirism mostly falls within the Feta and the Etherean realms of ethnicity. Not that it can't affect other race or other ethnicities, it's just rarer. There are two different forms of vampirism. There is the living and the undead. I need to make that very clear right now because that is very important for later. The living suffer a blood hunger. They don't necessarily need blood to live, but they do need to excrete the virus. Kind of like milking a snake, if you would. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Basically, the vite partially holds the viral load. Yes, vampirism is a virus in this case. The undead will have an echo, but they will also have the will of the virus. Now, that is important because there's a big difference between a soul and an echo. An echo is your last major will. So I want you to basically think of what someone is like in their last major moments, right? What their true character, quote unquote, is. I don't agree with that. I don't think when someone's dying, they show their true character. I think they show their biggest impulse is what they fucking show. But I digress.
Where am I?
That is a good question, my lad. Anyways, I don't know if you can do this quest, but we're gonna find out. Try. Let's see if you can do this quest.
Alright. I was gonna go to the Sacred Forest and see.
Oh, go for it. The quest will be there when you
That's
get back. Because if it's there, then I'll drop this quest because we'll be doing the same thing either way. So that echo is literally what was left of the person when they died. It could be major fear, terror. It could be self-loathing. It could be
see. Wait.
utter hatred. It could be any number of different things. But the echo is basically the last major mental will that they had. So once again, warmongering general, they're going to continue to be a warmongering general. They will always default to that echo. If they were a super loving and protective father, they will continue for the rest of their afterlife to be a super protecting and loving father. Etc., etc., etc. The virus is a necrotic disease that transfers through saliva or blood. That is important. While it is to be treated like an HIV-based disease, you do not directly transmit the virus through sperm or through vaginal fluid. That's very important. That's not to say that you can't pass it on to your young. That's saying that you cannot pass it to your partner that way. Granted, there's a good chance that if the mother was a non-vampire but ends up with a vampire baby, she could still end up contracting the virus from the baby, because let's face it, babies are not friendly in the womb. I could totally see, you know, a baby that's just about to come out of the womb absolutely biting the inside of the mother. In very rare cases, mind you. That takes a certain, yeah. Anyways, moving on. So, next we need to talk about viral load. If you are freshly bitten, or you have contracted a bit of vampirism because of maybe some blood interaction or saliva interaction. I'm not talking about kissing. I'm talking like you got bit and they got a lot of saliva all over your arm or wherever the wound is. This is curable. A low viral load is absolutely 100% curable.
Wait a minute, how come cannot joy regress because progression hasn't been met?
Ah, that's what I was wondering. Okay, you need to do the quest in the Sacred Forest.
Okay. I don't know what that quest is, so.
Yeah, you're supposed to pick it up. It's supposed to be some random quest that you get asked to do after a little while. It says 21, but I'm assuming it's probably a little bit later. So let's do this one.
Here.
There we go. Just popped up. Medium load. Manageable with treatment, but no longer curable. This means that the viral load that is in your system is high enough that it is no longer a treatable virus, and you're stuck with it for the rest of your life.
Ooh, that one's pretty good.
So,
That's also 560. That's weird.
So, yeah, something to take into consideration is, yeah, this is a point where the virus is basically locked into your system. You're not getting away. It's definitely a feel bad moment, because the last thing you want to hear from your doctor is, yeah, you contracted vampirism. There's nothing we can do now. You let it go for too long. I thought it was a cold. You thought the need to drink blood was a cold. There's not much I can do for you, sir. And or madam. Anyways. Then you got the high dosage. So, remember how I said that you need to kind of drain the viral load after a while? That's because if the virus is left in your body for too long, you end up with what is essentially a mutation progression. This is where the virus is so deep in your system now, and you have so much of it in your system, that your body, or the virus basically goes, they're not feeding enough. They're not transmitting enough. I need to make this person a better predator so that I can infect more people. And this is where things start to get kind of nasty. So, the early stages of vampirism, you end up with your ears and nose starting to flatten. What this means is it starts to get closer and closer to your body. Your teeth become sharper, and you start to have a bit of hair loss. Your skin thickens, yet becomes more transparent. You become light sensitive, I need to make that known that's sensitive, not repellent. And your eyes and sockets start to shrink. So, once again, the longer you let this sit, the worse and worse it gets. So, if you're in the early stages, oh yeah, you can still have that femboy vampire looking piece of shit thing going. However, the longer you let it sit, you're going to start to... Okay, then. You're going to start to lose more and more of your hair. Your ears and nose are going to flatten out more and more. And your skin's going to become thicker, yet more transparent as time moves on. Not only that, but your eyes shrinking, not exactly a great look. In the middle stages of mutation, which is generally where 99% of vampires who have this kind of problem end up, the ears and nose close, leaving primordial holes. Your eyes disappear, leaving divots. Your jaw deforms. Your neck elongates, gaining more flexibility. So, literally imagine having like 4 or 5 more vertebrae in your neck. So, literally, you're talking about someone who can rotate their head, maybe not like 180 degrees, but like 160 degrees, 170 degrees. Still enough to be creepy as all fuck. Not only that, but with the jaw deformity, something that isn't in the notes, that should be, the teeth actually migrate from your jawline to your lips. Specifically, the inner lining of your lips. So, what happens is as your jaw stretches out, right, it forces your lips to stretch and spread more, which forces those teeth that are on the inner end of your lips to protrude, allowing you to grip on and latch on like a giant tooth sucker. So, think leech or lamprey. Which is exactly what I was going for. So, then come the final stages. These are kind of gnarly in their own right. The arms begin to grow a thin skin that connects to the torso. Feet enlarge and teeth elongate. Wings grow from the hands, and you start to gain other weirder growths. For lack of better terms, at this point, you literally become a monster. Not only that, chances are, whatever echo the vampire had is just gone. At that point, it's just a predatory virus, if that makes any sense. So yeah, vampirism is pretty fucked up. And once again, this can also happen to a living vampire. Once again, something that is not in my notes, but something that I have thought about very much on this topic. Vampirism will try to reconstruct the body as best it can if you pass. Hence why you have the undeath factor. The problem is while in this undeath factor, you essentially become, basically you go into the echo state, where the original person just isn't there anymore. They're not alive. The body will reconstruct as best it can, as long as the damage isn't beyond the body's means to, fix. This means that, can it technically heal from a heart wound? Yes, but replacing heart tissue is a bit harder than replacing, like, say, a leg. Because the heart is a bit of a different product. Same thing with brain tissue. And there might be a case where the undeath basically goes, well, this tissue isn't required for movement, so I'm just going to scar this over and be done with it. If it's not motor skills or dealing with hunger and feeding, what does it matter? But that is to say that are vampires extremely tough and durable? Abso-fucking-lutely. Are they capable of living, or quote-unquote, living through more than a normal living creature? Well, slightly more so, yeah. Are they immortal? No. And yes, they do age over time. They just age slower. I would say a 1 to 10 ratio. So for every 1 year that a normal human would live, a vampire would live 10 years longer. Quote unquote, live. So you can end up with survivors from wars who are hundreds of years old, but they're not exactly what one would call functional. If that makes any sense. Any questions on vampirism?
It's a little bit more straightforward and all that, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's got clear elements. It's got a clear disease progression. It makes a lot of sense. It loses some of its hocus pocus. I mean, it's not like they gain mind control and all that. Like, you know, a number of different books and stories try to write off. Believe it or not, this is actually a modified disease. Vampirism actually was not originally vampirism. It actually stems from the undead virus, which normally used to affect cadavers and make living people
Don't
sick.
forget about the tail.
Yep. Ah, my bloody head. Oh, I already got it, apparently. Yeah, once again, it loses some of the weird hocus pocus you get from some versions of vampires, but it doesn't make them any less threatening. They're still a threat. They still require blood to function and live. Or at least they require the biting motion to be able to reduce the viral load in their system. This does mean that technically you can go to a clinic and have them bleed the viral load from your system. But even then, like, I would imagine there's probably a natural urge as well that just comes with that. So, yeah, you absolutely got rid of the viral load, but you still feel like you need to sink your teeth into proper flesh to be able to, you know, do what the virus is telling you to do. Let's finish this fight. I'll finish off the last of the diseases. And then we'll wrap up from there. Honestly, I'm really happy that Chris was able to transcribe all this into a singular document. Okay. So do you like the simplified version of the vampire, or?
Well, vampires usually are. Well, that works. Are still simplified. But
Yeah, but this one definitely rationalizes them a lot more. And I like that idea that it's something akin to a virus that actually causes a mutation. Okay. Let's finish up this thing, and then we can all get off and whatnot, because I know you got work tomorrow.
Yep. Yay.
Okay. So, next up we have lycanthropy. An extreme expression of both genetics and overactive system. Can be controlled but not cured. Some natural events can affect, i.e. lunar or taint events, and it is both a mixture of viral and ancestral. This means that it can be transmitted to other people. However, it is one of those things that, similar to some other diseases that have been found in the human genome, it can go dormant for periods of time and then reemerge in later generations. Low viral load is asymptomatic. Medium load is minor or often reversible mutations. And then high load is painful major mutations that require therapy, both physical, mental, and magical therapy to actually achieve results to help the person. The mutation can give a push to body's extremes, giving available genetics. Other ethnicities are mostly immune outside of human and Natura. I say mostly because this doesn't mean that they are completely immune, just mostly. This means the base mix of anthropomorphic and exaggerated to a great deal and can cause a variation in gesture and mutation or gestation and mutation time. While reversible in low amounts, the extremes of the mutation can cause heavy stress on the body and mind. If managed by aura, drugs, or training, it can be used at will, but likely will result in an eventual and increased viral load, worsening the reaction and mutation. To explain this a bit better, because I had to give this a broad statement because it covers such a variety of people. Because remember, Natura covers Dryadic, wolf people, cat people, basically anybody with any nature-based system. Once again, demi-humans, right? It also affects humans. It basically expresses whatever your major genetic link is. So, for, like, say, a wolf person, right? You would get something more akin to a proper werewolf. If you had something more akin to a dryad, you may end up with a little tiny forest nymph, right? So some flowery looking lady who likes to live near ponds and all that, generally just like sitting out in the sun, to she disappears for like 2 months and next time you see her, she looks like fucking Treebeard and is going on a rampage. So, yeah. I mean, if you really need to, though, it's a great way to get swole quick. But, yeah, the mutations on the minor loads means that you might get bigger teeth, bigger claws, bigger toenails, a little bit more hair. That is mildly reversible. However, it's not curable. You're going to be living with this disease for the rest of your life. In high loads, you're going from someone who looks mostly human-ish to someone who looks more like a beast than anything else, or a tree, depending on the situation, or a giant piranha plant. To make note, if an Etherian gets a hold of it, they basically go full Ozaru. How's that for lycanthropy?
Huh.
Well, you gotta remember, humans are giant great apes. So what's our base genetic structure gonna look like? A fucking gorilla. So you end up with a human with lycanthropy, and if they are more or less a full-blooded human, or in this case, Etherian, right? And they catch this disease, their more primal ape-like genetics are going to kick in. You're talking bigger, thicker bones. You're talking greater body mass, probably greater muscle mass. a lot more hair, and probably slightly elongated arms. Once again, you're talking swole gains like nobody's business, but you're also talking extreme pain. This process for mammalian creatures or even reptilian creatures is going to be painful at best. So this entire process in the large mutation variant can take hours. You're talking about 2 to 3 hours of violent pain as your bones and body reorientates itself as best of its capability with whatever your body has available. So if you have, plenty of calcium and all that, it's going to make bigger, better bones. If you got plenty of protein in your system, you're going to have, plenty of muscle mass. This also means that chances are when this disease first takes hold, these people are going to be ravenous. They're going to be eating everything they can get their hands on just so that they have the biological material for this massive growth. And they probably don't even realize it. They're probably like, oh yeah, no, I've just been more hungry for like the last week. I don't understand why, but look how fucking big I'm getting, man. Next thing you know, the next time you see him, he's literally walking around looking like the damn Beast Titan from Attack on Titan. With none of the common sense. Because this transformation doesn't just do a number on your body as far as, like, physical, like, powerhouse. It reduces your brain capacity. So once again, your wolf or dog person is going to become more feral and more outright aggressive. Your cat person is going to become more lynx or lion-esque.
Alright.
Your lizard person is going to become more like Marvel's The Lizard, or like fucking Sobat from freaking I can't remember that game about gods at the moment. So yeah, while it is kind of a broad stroke as far as how lycanthropy needs to be treated, I had to make it encompass all of that in a way that made sense. There are a couple more diseases, though these ones are a little bit more straightforward. Stoneblood, which basically is petrification. This obviously normally affects
I
the...
actually have to get going, so.
God damn it. You know what? We'll
Uh.
save some of the rest of this for the next World Builders. For those who have been watching, hopefully you've enjoyed. We actually had 2 hours of fucking content this time. And I still have more. Yes, I have more and more notes. And more to come, too. I'm currently writing histories, including wars. I actually had a moment where I blanked out for 30 minutes and literally imagined a full-blown war between the Phaeta and the Etherians. The birth of the vampiric virus was not a fun, delightful time. It was... So I guess similar to other writers, I'm going to be writing War Crimes, the book. Anyways, that'll be for the next set of World Builders. Hopefully everybody has fun. If we don't see you again before the holidays are over, you guys have a fantastic set of holidays. Stay safe, stay well. And just remember, try is still try. No matter how much he tries, he will always be try. Thanks for trying.
Indeed.
All right.
I'm not
Later.
apologizing. Good night.
Bye.
Okay.